Good evening, everybody. My name is Anto, coming to you live from the end of the world for the first stream of 2023. It's been a while. It's been like 2.5 months since we've done this. It was like November the last time we did this. So it's been a while. How is everybody? Say hello in the chat while we do all the usual like preamble type stuff. It feels like 2.5 years. Oh my god, so much. Just the last like 10 days feel like 2.5 years, honestly. Now this is something I haven't seen in a long time. Yeah, so took a break for December because December is always super busy, and then I got really ill over Christmas, and then first day back in work for the new year, and boom, OGL stuff. But it was grotesque. But we're here now, starting a little bit earlier this evening because I am exhausted and I genuinely think I would fall asleep if we were going until midnight. So I thought we'll start a little bit earlier so we can finish earlier and I can get tucked into bed before midnight and hopefully stay conscious for the whole stream. This evening we're doing something a little bit different, kind of different. You'll notice that the tag and all the ancillary information for tonight's stream is all Pathfinder stuff now because my 5th edition game ended like the week before Christmas. We had our final confrontation. The good guys fought the big bad evil guy. They won. They saved the world. Everybody died at least once. And now we're moving on to our Pathfinder 2E campaign. We had our session 0 last week. We've got our very first session on Wednesday. So today we're going to do a little bit of world building, a little bit of adventure prep, kind of find our feet with the rhythm for making Pathfinder 2nd edition adventures as we go along. If you've got questions or want to know anything about Pathfinder, stick them in the chat and we'll talk about it. After says, everybody died at least once. Sounds right for a final session. Yeah, I normally, when I'm running, I like to keep things kind of semi-deadly, but I don't go too hard. But for big boss fights, it's completely gloves off. The players always have enough warning of the kind of things that they're going to encounter before they get there. They knew that the last fight was going to be intense. I don't think they really let it sink in how intense. They fought, crikey, 9 spellcasters, 10 spellcasters? 12 spell. They fought a lot of spellcasters. I had loads of like bumpkin spellcasters on hand because I expected there to be a lot of counterspelling. There wasn't. So there was a lot of spells thrown around and then a bunch of really tough melee opponents. All but one of them died somewhere along the way. Call the stream live for once. Hello everybody. Hello. So you're winding down on Jewel City's world building. No, we are ramping up on Jewel City's world building because Jewel City's is going to be the Pathfinder 2E campaign. So I'd been adventuring in my realm of Ashk, the desert nation, for the last like nearly 3 years. And now that's done. So all the prep that we've been doing for the Jewel Cities over the last like 8 months, we can finally put to use. And speaking of prep and finally putting things to use, let's go ahead and switch over to our desktop view. Here you can see the map of the Jewel Cities. The map is made using Incarnate, and then all throughout this evening we're going to be doing a whole bunch of world building, and that is in the tool Legend Keeper. Links to all of that is in the chat. Let's go ahead and catch up on the chat before we dive in. It is 9 p.m. where we are. Everybody died at least once. Yeah. Look at all those pins. Yeah, I think we're up to like 570-ish. Yuzarian says, warning for boss fights is good, although I once killed 3 PCs with a warning. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to... This group is really bad at picking up on warnings. I have had them literally walk into a place with hundreds of signs in like every conceivable language being like, this place is death, don't come here, and you know they stumble in an old TPK, so ignoring warnings is part and parcel for it. So when you expect counter spells, they don't happen when you don't expect them to happen. Exactly. So over the course of that campaign there'd been a lot of kind of counter spell play between particularly the bard and then enemy spellcasters. So I expected them to come into this last fight thinking, oh, there's going to be spellcasters. I'd telegraphed that there's going to be spellcasters. So I thought the bard would be on counterspell duty, but the bard true polymorphed himself into a dragon, so couldn't cast counterspell. So I just had like 12 spellcasters just freely throwing spells around. It was great. It was good stuff. So what we're doing today is we're going to prep for the first adventure of our Pathfinder 2nd edition game. So the players are starting in this region here, known as the Vale. The Vale is quite a small region in the Jewel Cities. It is well defended. There is a large cliff and kind of mountain range that keeps it defended by land, and then it's got sea defenses all the way around it. This is where the players chose to start. They've chosen to start as members of a brand new free company. So the free companies of Talavar are this collection of like institutions. They're military mercenary companies, and for a long time kind of all of the armies throughout this continent were free companies. That's kind of changed over time. A lot fewer free companies now. But the players have chosen to start as a brand new free company. There's going to be them and a handful of NPCs as part of this company. They're going to be kind of subordinate because they don't want to run things straight away. And our first mission is they're going to have to go out and get some kind of status symbol for this free company. So a lot of the free companies that still operate in Talavar have some kind of status symbol, some magic item or weapon or a suit of armor or something powerful and ostentatious that says we're here, we're powerful. So they want to go out and find this thing. Not 100% sure of what this thing's going to be yet. I'm thinking some kind of shroud, some kind of religious shroud that we can turn into a banner. That way we get to do some crypt stuff and classic kind of low level adventure stuff. But we'll figure it out as we go through. Naftal says, of course they picked the Vale. It's the best starting option by far. I was really hoping they'd pick somewhere in the Empire, but they were all really against the Empire. They have a big problem with authority, and I suppose they thought if they started in the Empire, they'd have to, be Imperial bootlickers. And just, the Empire's really cool. There's loads of cool magic stuff going on over there. But there's cool, timey-wimey magic stuff going on in the Vale, so it'll be fine. Politics and time magic and apocalyptic prophecies and stuff. I was about to say a banner flag. Banner flag is awesome. Is this map available to the public as well? I see it all the time and I love it. It is available through my Patreon. Patrons get like a high quality download of it, but I share iterations of it all the time, and I've been working on it for ages. It's a good time to be playing games other than D&D. It is indeed. Was there many betrayals from hired free companies and that's why they weren't as prevalent? No. So what wiped out most of the free companies is the previous emperor of the Dusk Empire, a magic user called the Subjugator. He swept across the whole continent of Talavar and kind of quashed most of the free companies because most of the nations that he was invading hired free companies to defend themselves and they lost. So huge numbers of free companies just got wiped out over the course of the couple centuries that he was kind of spreading across the continent. Maybe instead of a single piece of fabric to turn it into a flag, they want to collect multiple ones and make a multicolored flag. Maybe each one is colored with different rare pigment or is taken from a different somehow important source. I kind of like the idea of having like was it the Robe of Bones, or there's a magic item robe that's full of, I think it's the Robe of Bones, that's full of like different bits that you can pull off and has different magical effects. Incorporating something like that could be kind of cool. So what have we done so far in regards to this adventure? So I kind of had a look around the Vale and thought, where do I want them to start? I know that the capital is the City of Dream, and I don't want them to be near the capital or start in a city because I want them to get that small town experience before they kind of graduate to the cities. So we had a town that was unnamed down here, which is near our kind of Jurassic Park wannabe scientist guy, and it's near some mountains and a couple of other points of interest. So we're going to start them off in this town. The town is called Holden, and the whole premise is going to be they've come to Holden, they've established this like budding free company, and their job is to go out into the world and find an artifact of some kind. Why have just one status symbol when you can have many? Exactly. And then from there, we are going to figure out where to send them. I'm thinking there's a ruin here, the ruins of Silverforge, and I'm thinking we're going to send them there. let me go ahead and turn on my moderation actions. It's been so long. It's been so long since I've used Twitch that I can't show mod icons. Is this what I want? No, this isn't what I want. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Turn on shield mode. Chat will be cleared. And nope. There we go. That's what we want. We want the delete button. There we go. Fixed it. It's been so long since I've used Twitch. I don't know where any of the buttons are. Jade Avenger, welcome. We are just about to get into the meat of things. So, we have the town of Holden. I've gone ahead and I have made a map on the Watabu city generator. This is what I use for a lot of my maps, especially early on in a campaign before the players really settle on a single location. I don't like to spend too much time or too many resources devoted to making like an entire city map when I don't know how long the players are going to stay here. So we use the Watabu city generator to make a map, colored it in, and we've started the process of dropping some pins, doing a little bit of world building here. So the big thing with this region of the world is their primary deity is Cardia the Maiden. So we've got this little town square here. So we've got a statue of the Maiden, start reinforcing kind of the world building of our pantheon in there. And then the very first place that I put down was the tavern, because obviously it was. This tavern is going to be known as the Pikeman, run by Jim Royner, a human male innkeeper. That's all we really know about him. And then we started placing some other things down. So we've got the ruins of Krallen Manor. This is going to be the building that the people that have set up the free company that the players are part of have taken over. So they've taken it over in a dilapidated state. So the players are going to be able to engage with some kind of base building mechanics if they are interested in that. If not, it'll just kind of happen in the background. Then we have the town hall, no information on that yet. And then we have Brightwater Textiles. So in working on our information for Holden, so in our key NPCs, we've got Aldous Brightwater. He is the mayor of Holden and the owner of a textile factory in the town. And that's how a lot of their imports and kind of money comes into the town through this textile business. There might be some potential for him to be corrupt, because standard all figures of authority end up being corrupt, or capitalism is the real enemy. That's the theme of all of our games. Then I don't know where I came across the name Godson Beers. I think it was in my Excel spreadsheet that generates a whole bunch of stuff. I was generating names, and I generated the name Godson Beers, and halflings in my world have Australian accents, and immediately I was like, in an Aussie accent, that would sound like got some beers, a question, because they have an upwards inflection, like got some beers. So it's like, obviously the local drunken has to be a halfling and introduce himself as got some beers, and people will think he's asking if they've got any beers. And I laughed at that for far too long on my own. And then we have Pauline Dumas, who's the Marshal of Holden, kind of the sheriff of the town, the head of the local law. And that's pretty much as far as we got in terms of planning for this town, because something happened, which has been the theme of my life for the last 10 days. I try and sit down and do something, and then something happens, all related to OGL madness. Like, ugh, I hate it. Danger level in this place is going to be pretty low. There's going to be some magic items for sale, but it's only going to be max level 2, so really low level magic stuff. But we want to give them, you know, that taste of it straight away. And then in terms of what I was thinking for our home button, in terms of what I was thinking for our adventure, there's some ruins not too far away, like 2 days ride away or 2 days walk away, that I think would be ideal for this. So the fortress was destroyed during the Timestone War. Local superstition says it's fearsome creatures live there. Perception is fostered by the veil that protects the true purpose of the ruin as a base of operation for experiments. I don't think we're going to use that particular prompt for this. Let me go ahead and jump to me adventure planner. Welcome to the Jewel Cities. We have nothing. Where did I start? I know I've written things down for this adventure, but I do not know where. Possibly in Foundry, that's why I can't see it. So I'm thinking that these ruins are going to have been taken over by some kind of cult. And then we're going to introduce some members of the cult in this first kind of adventure. That's the word. Forgot the word. Brain doesn't work. In this first adventure. And then I want to leave it for a couple of sessions. And then maybe in session 4 or 5, we'll introduce kind of a character from the cult and have a little bit more cult stuff. And then I'm thinking that this cult that they interact with is going to form kind of the overarching villain for our first kind of saga or season. So I've talked a lot in the past about the way that I structure my campaigns like a TV show. I think it is a really useful format to follow, and planning it out like that allows you to start sowing seeds really early. So I've worked out that roughly I want most of the levels to last about 6 sessions, between 4 and 8, kind of 6 being the ideal length for a level of play. So level 1's to 6 sessions. And over that, I can look at that as if it was a season of TV and go, right, what's the overarching theme of this season? Which is going to be establishing their free company and fighting this cult. So every time I go to make an episode or an adventure or a session, I can look at that and go, right, okay, how can I either incorporate the free company aspect of it or the cult? And let me go ahead and see whether we can open up the spreadsheet. I'm going to open it in a window that you can't see to start with, so I'm not showing you the secret informations, the secret source, which requires me going to my Google Drive. What if the mayor is manipulating taxes so he could tax doesn't pay as much tax? I imagine tax evasion will be a solid one. Russian nesting cults. The cult could be an offshoot of a bigger cult. There is cult activity in the Vale that we've established a while ago. A night hag that kind of worships the god of nightmares is operating a cult, so it's entirely possible this could be a splinter cell of that. Is it the same group that have just finished that you'd be taken into Dual Cities? It is indeed. So we've had our last session just before Christmas, I want to say, the week before Christmas. Then we took a couple of weeks off for the holidays, had our session 0 last week, and then we are going to be doing our first session next week. Right, where will my spreadsheet be? It'll be in the folder with all my other D&D stuff, or Pathfinder as it is in this case. RPGs, Master Book, where are you? Master Book, that looks like it. Will this open in Google Sheets so I can actually show it off without having to mess around with OBS? It's doing something. We'll leave it running to do something in the background. So yeah, I'm thinking Ruins of Silverforge for where they're going to have to go. I have a map pack. I can't remember who made it, but I've got some fancy looking maps. They're actually from, I want to say, Princes of the Apocalypse, or no? What's the ocean adventure for 5th edition? Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Got there eventually. I've got some fancy versions of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh maps, and one of them is like a ruined keep and then a big old dungeon underneath, and I think that's what I'm going to use as the maps for this. None of my players have ever played Saltmarsh. I've never played Saltmarsh, so might as well make use of the maps. So I'll have a ruined keep up in the woods, some really low level kind of guard encounter up there, and then they descend into the keep itself, and we're going to have a whole bunch of fancy stuff going on in there. We might pull up Foundry in a little bit and kind of take a look at that. But first, I want to open the master sheet if it ever opens. Don't know whether it's just taken an age because it's the first time I've tried to open it with Google Sheets, but we'll leave it running in the background, see what happens. Right, let's check, see where we're at. So we got like 10 minutes before the next ad, that's all good. So I want to open up my adventure template. Excuse me. So this is my adventure template that I use in Legend Keeper. Welcome, Era. You've arrived just in time to catch spoilers. So I use this for all the adventures. It's got kind of structure to help get my brain working and operating in the way that it should. So let's have a look. Our session date is going to be the 18th of January. 18th of the 1st, 2023. I'm sorry. Like, that's going to be most streams now, because most of these are going to be like session prep. So you're just going to always be wading into spoiler territory. Let's see whether this has worked. It's still loading. God damn. Right. Hello, Luna. How are we? Glad you could join us. I'm just trying to get the tech to work, and it doesn't want to work, and it feels bad. And I don't like it, and it makes me sad. So I'm gonna fine. I'll do it the proper way. That might be why it's not working. I'm pretty sure I tried to open an old version. Oh no. Or it just immediately starts working. Okay, cool. Fine. I see what it is. Did this work? Saga planning. It did work. Look at that. Just as I start to badmouth it, it works. Right, let's pull this over to here so you can see them. Am I still processing redeems? I am. I don't know whether they're on. I might have turned them off before Christmas. Let me go and have a look in the back end and I'll tell you. Or I will if I can remember how to do it. It's been a while. Twitch. How do you work, Twitch? Tell me how you work. Create a dashboard. That's what we want. I need to pay for what I sent you a while back. Ah, yes. Community content. Where viewer rewards? That's the one. Channel points. Enable channel points. Manage rewards. Yes, they should all be on. Yeah, they're all on. All is right with the world. Okay. Here we go. That's Twitter. We don't want Twitter. We want this. Cool. So this is the saga planning thing that I was talking about in my masterbook, my Excel spreadsheet. This spreadsheet will be available eventually once it's all done. So let's just quickly jump to the index so you can kind of get a feel of what it has. So I've got a whole bunch of pages. I've got Pathfinder specific stuff related to map making, encounter making, general lists, and then miscellaneous stuff. So a lot of it is generators of one type or another. So if we go ahead here and jump to the NPC generator, that's always a fun one. And then wait for it to load for 18 million years. Yeah, let's jump to the NPC generator directly rather than waiting. So this is a list of like hundreds of names, ancestries, genders, ages, heights, professions, all the top rows, and then we refresh it. I don't know how you refresh in Google Sheets, but we refresh it and it gives you a new NPC with enough complexity to be interesting, but enough simplicity not to be overwhelming to run. So you get what they're called, what race and kind of profession are they, do they have a religion, and then what are their quirks and ideals. And that is usually enough for me to get a really strong start to an NPC, because I know what they're interested in, what their kind of goals are, and who they generally are as a person. So it's a whole bunch of generators like that. It will be available for free when it is done, but it is not done yet. So one of the things in here is a saga planner, which is I've talked about on my YouTube channel before. Let's shameless plug. And like I said, the premise of this is I expect most levels to last for 6 adventures. So we break it down into 6 adventures. We give it the saga a name. So this is the Free Company saga. It's our first one. The players are establishing themselves in this free company. And then in each of these boxes, we plan out what is the A storyline for our particular adventure. So in this case, the party members of a newly formed free company have been tasked with recovering the Argent Shroud, which is said to be housed in the ruins of Silverforge, which is currently being held by a cult looking to find and use the Shroud. So the Shroud is this religious artifact they're going to try and find. And then our B plot is to introduce the cult that will factor into future adventures. And we've color-coded this as this kind of like off red. So in future adventures, in future episodes, we can use that color code to give ourselves a sense of where we want this to be. So you can see I've already made a note that Adventure 4 is where I want a B plot relating to the cult. So Adventure 4, the players are going to go and do something unrelated to cult stuff, and there will be cult stuff going on in the B-line plot throughout that adventure. And then as we come to Adventure 6, which will be the culmination of this first saga, they're going to have to deal with that cult. And then we color code everything else so that as we go through, we can say, right, okay, in Adventure 2, we're going to seed the plot hook for Adventure 3. So we'd put that as our B plot or a C plot or however many levels deep you want to go. Color code it, and then I can step back and look at the whole season, the saga, the whole collection of adventures that make up level 1. And I can go, I've got a broad sense of where this is going to go. Now, obviously, no plan survives contact with the players, and this will change, and quite often it changes quickly, like on a dime. Players will make a decision that completely throws out all the plans that you've got. But I find that doing this gives me a really strong idea of, here are the things that I need to communicate to the players, especially early on in kind of a saga. Here are the things that I want to keep hidden from them and slowly sprinkle in, and here is how I can start to interweave some of these stories. So I did this in my very first campaign, and in the kind of second saga, I knew that I wanted them to get betrayed and for the city that they were in to kind of get taken over, but I didn't know who was going to do that. And I purposely didn't plan ahead of time who was going to do that, so I could wait, see who they interacted with, see who they formed attachments to, and then have that kind of betrayal come about a little bit more naturally and choose who was going to be the betrayer once I knew who they'd kind of established relationships with. But all the time leading up to that, I knew someone is going to betray them. Let's keep that in the back of our minds so that when they interact with people and when they go on quests and find things, and we get context of their adventures, we can use that knowledge of this betrayal to kind of flavor things a little bit. So it's a really useful tool, a really useful method of approaching adventure planning. And certainly in this first kind of season, this first saga, it's what I plan on doing. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy the text from this. And we want to paste it in here. The party members of a newly formed free company and have been tasked with the recovering of the Argent Shroud, which is said to be in the ruins of Silverforge, which is currently being held by a cult looking to find and use the shroud. So we have some proper nouns here. We've got the ruins of Silverforge, which already exists as a pin on the map, so we can go ahead and link that to our existing Silverforge there. And then the Argent Shroud. This is going to be a magic item, so we're going to go ahead and create from template, and this is going to use our item template. If we still have an item template, I think we do. Item template, there it is. And then we want to put this in items in our compendium, and we'll go ahead and hide this because I don't want the players to see it straight away. So the first thing we want to do, we want to figure out, what is this Argent Shroud? What's its deal? What's it all about? So we know that this is going to be a unique item, and I probably want it to be around level 5 in terms of power. I don't think that we're going to have necessarily any mechanical powers for it immediately, though we might bring that in at a later date. So we want it unique around level 5. Lego Firehawk says, ooh, how did you do the funky colors for the dividers? Those are actually pictures. They are like shapes that I made in Designer, exported them as pictures, and then brought them into Legend Keeper as little pictures. So you can see if I click them, it gives me the option for alt text. It just helps break the page up a bit. When we know it's silver in color, exactly. So silver in color, it's also going to be related to some kind of religious figure within the faith of the Maiden. So Cardia the Maiden is the big kind of religious figure in this region, and I'm thinking this is going to be not directly related to her, but kind of a saint or a herald or a prophet or kind of a secondary or tertiary member of the faith in some way. So in some way, related to a I spell tertiary? It is. Member of the Cardia, the Maiden Faith. Who that is? Don't know. Don't know yet. Begins to explain, denied by ads. The knowledge it's been denied for any time in Twitch. We are running an ad. Which is going to run for the next, minute. So we'll hold in pattern for the next minute until everybody gets out the ads. It's my bad because I didn't have normally have the page that shows me that we're in the ads open, but I did not have it open. Have y'all only been able to see the no, surely not. No, it's fine, I just clicked the wrong button. It's like, have you only been looking at Nethys this whole time? Oh, 3 ads at that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the ads are on 30-minute timers, and I just wasn't looking at the timer. Normally I try and keep an eye on it so I can be like, let's not talk about important things while the ad's running. But it's been 2.5 months and I've forgotten how Twitch works, so it's all a learning process. Right, I'm gonna dual up this particular screen, and then hopefully then I can see the ads and I can see myself. It's a silvery shroud for starts. Woven from super fine, super intricate silver threads. It's known to refract, is that the right word? Inking light into brilliant colours. It was supposed to be used to make a garment for some priestess, but now it's going to be a flag. I like the idea of it being made from kind of a silvery thread. That's kind of cool. Bring y'all down so I can sit, because my back, it hurts. So yeah, it's going to be silvery in colour. It's going to be related to some kind of secondary, tertiary member of the faith. In terms of special rules, I'm thinking we look to the regalia from the thaumaturge in Pathfinder 2. So the regalia is one of the thaumaturge's kind of things that they get access to. I've forgotten the word. Implements. So the thaumaturge class gets access to a whole bunch of different implements, one of which is the regalia, which has a bunch of benefits. So we can go here and we can kind of look. We can see the adept benefit is a 7th level feature. Your regalia's power increases as it does, so too do the abilities. Circumstance, your bonus you get to gain diplomacy and intimidation increases by 2. So it's got an aura of courage. So when you're holding it, you gain an aura of courage with a 15-foot emanation, granting people a +1 bonus to saving throws and fear. So we'll take that general premise and we'll kind of combine it a little. So we're going to take +1 might be a little bit too low, not necessarily, but maybe. So +1 status bonus to saving throws against fear when within sight, because that's kind of the whole point of a flag. It's supposed to do stuff when you can see it, and given that this is an independent item and not a class feature, I'm kind of happy enough to take what would be a 1st level innate benefit from the thaumaturge class, bump it up to be an infinite range as long as you're within sight, and kind of retain the same style and kind of power level that feels right-ish. It could have special abilities against evil creatures just based on the silver ideas. That's an excellent shout. Let's have a look at silvered. Or just silver, because silver does have an effect in PF2. Dragon silver, silver refrain, creatures, composite material, focus. Let's go ahead and go silver weapons PF2 AON. And see what the silver weapon does. Silver weapons deal additional damage to creatures with weakness to silver, like werewolves, and ignores the resistances of other creatures like devils. Cool. So, let's give it. So, +1 status bonus, saving throws against fear when within sight of this shroud, the standard. But then let's give it an emanation to kind of suppress the resistances, or like bypass the resistances of creatures like devils or werewolves when within like 30 feet. So 30-foot emanation to suppress resistances to silver and stuff. And we'll figure out, this isn't something that's going to come up in the first session, but it will help us with the kind of lore and the thinking of the more fluffy things that we will communicate to the players. But then if they ever do happen to use the shroud or their banner in combat in a later adventure, we'll have some guidance of, okay, we've got a rough ballpark of what we want this to do. Help them resist fear and overcome the resistance to silver of creatures within the area. And that honestly feels pretty fine for like a low level weapon. I don't think we need much more in terms of power for that. Evening Strain, how are we? Yeah, I feel that feels good for like sub level 5. I'd be happy to be around that magic weapon or that magic item if I was under level 5. I'm like, okay, I'm less afraid, and if we fight in devils and things, they're a little less effective, so that's good. In terms of the specifics of who this belongs to, no idea. So let's go and look out our Pantheon and see whether we have any information on Cardia the Maiden and see whether we've got anything. So we have 3 existing saints for Cardia. These are Elizabeth, Aoife and Sophia Asta. These are characters that came up in the history of my first campaign in the realm of Valeroth. These were sisters to one of the kings of Valeroth. This feels a little bit far away for that, but we are kind of close. Mate, this could work. Let's have a look at our map. We need to look at the map to consult. So the Vale, their long-time enemy. Oh, yes, it's all coming together. Everything's coming together. So the Vale's long-time enemy is the realm of Novaris. Novaris is this realm down to the south. Their kind of background in this world is that a lot of their peoples were refugees from the realm of Valeroth, which was where my first campaign took place. That country blew up because the players made a series of poor decisions, and a whole bunch of people fled across the ocean, ended up in Novaris. They have been at war with the Vale. That war is now over, but I do like the idea that the Argent Shroud is actually a Novaris artifact brought over from Valeroth. It's one of kind of the shrouds of the 3 sisters, which were sisters to the kings of Valeroth, so would have significant meaning to the people of Novaris as descended from those Valerosi people. But then the people of the Vale worship Cardia, who is kind of the goddess that these saints are associated with. So they're like, yoink, we're going to take that. I'm going to steal it. That gives us scope for a lot of cool and interesting tension if the players start wielding this banner around in Novaris. So I think that is what we're going to do. We're going to take one of the sisters. I'm going to roll a dice for it. Where is my dice generator? D6. That's 1, 2. So it's going to be Sophia Asta. So this is going to be the shroud that Sophia Asta was buried in. Maybe the cultists could have a vendetta against the Silver Shroud if they have connections to or worship dark creatures and see it as an affront to their benefits. Possibly. I'm also thinking that maybe we just go straight in, and instead of it being cultists, it's kind of Novaris soldiers that have heard rumors that this is here and they're trying to get it. Takes us in a different direction. We don't necessarily get the cult angle, but we get a stronger tie to some of the world building that we've already done. So I want to keep an open mind on that. So let's go ahead and make a note here. So the Argent Shroud. So this was the burial shroud of Sophia Asta, a saint of the faith of Cardia the Maiden. stolen from Novaris during the Timestone Wars. So that gives us some immediate ties into our background. We can have some of this stuff come up in our first adventure, which can give the players some information not just on the Vale, but kind of the regions around the Vale, some background on their kind of interrelationship between these nations. Would this be an army enforcer? It would be a small group trying to stay off the radar. It would be a small group because technically speaking, the war between these two nations is over. Novaris lost, they surrendered, and they're currently in a time of peace. But Novaris has a whole bunch of plans to do stuff, like their former king is currently imprisoned within the Vale. I'm sure they would love to kill the current Maiden Queen, and the Vale took a bunch of their artifacts. So I'm thinking this would be a small squad, like a strike force type squad, who've found out the location of the shroud and they're there trying to get there. And it won't be incredibly easy. Novaris could have put a bounty out for the retrieval of the shroud. Now that is interesting. Let's go ahead and have a look. Currently being held by a group. We'll omit cult for now, and stick with group, because it could be Novaris soldiers, could be a bounty they put out. We're unsure yet. Let's go ahead here. I'm going to fire up Foundry. Hopefully this doesn't tank OBS. Normally OBS is fine. We're like barely using any CPU. So I'm sure we'll be fine. But let's open up Foundry. And then load it up so you can kind of see what's going on here. It's just taking an age to load. Right, okay, so let's resize that and let's go into OBS. And would it be window capture? That doesn't seem like the right one. Would it be? Let's see. Game capture or browser? Browser? Display capture. Let's go display capture and just. Things are going to get incepted for a moment, but it'll be fine. And then let's see whether. Nope. Let's just make this big for a second. And then you're just going to have to not have my face for a second. So let's go here over to the maps. So you can see this is the map set that I have. When you can't just see my entire screen, I'll find the name of the artist that did all these maps. But they are adaptations of Ghost of Saltmarsh maps. So this is the ruins up top. So there'd be a kind of scout squad out here. Players would fight them, work their way down into the staircase that leads down into the kind of lower crypts. You can see I've been dragging one of the players in here to make sure the sight lines and things work. But what I'm thinking is that this basement area here is going to be explored, but whoever has come here looking for the shroud, they haven't found the secret door that leads into the proper tunnels. And then I've been doing some work adding traps and hazards and things. So we've got some spike throwers hidden behind locked doors, we've got fallen debris and pits, traps and things like that dotted around. This is what I was in the middle of doing. I was in the middle of doing this when Wizards dropped their update on the OGL. That's why I never stopped doing this. But the idea here will be a bunch of traps, bunch of monsters, probably some kind of undead. Thinking like if there's some lower level ghosty undead that we can make look less evil, because these would be spirits trying to protect this religious artifact, I'm thinking. Maybe some animated statues and things like that. That should work pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off so we don't get the many inceptions all at once. And then find my pages. Hello, fellow kids. This is all spoiler stuff, Space Chimp, so you don't want to be here. Haunts are pretty good for that as they are more of a hazard. Absolutely, I did have a look at haunts, or I was in the middle of looking at haunts when I got so rudely pulled away by WotC's announcement. But yeah, that's the general vibe I'm thinking of. They arrive at this place, go down, stuff happens, traps, monsters, good time, find the item, get out of there. That's the general plan. But I think that we can probably do some work on this free company that the players are going to be part of. So I believe that we have the players free company somewhere in this list, or at least I thought I had made it. Order of the Argent Shroud. So this will have been a free company. This is the free company that kind of stole the shroud in the first instance. I'm thinking, would a Novaris agent be a part or maybe a leader of this company? Possibly. That is something I have thought about, and having them kind of working undercover could definitely work. Do we have? I thought I'd made a page for the players faction, but maybe I didn't. In the name of the betrayal and all. I do think that is a cool idea. Let's go ahead and create from template. I want factions or faction template. Have we got both? Faction template. Let's hope. So players company. We don't know what they're going to be called yet, so we'll keep this hidden. And does this give us our template, the one that I want? No, it does not. It's fine. We'll copy this and paste it. And then just get rid of the description. So they are operating in the Vale, that's all fine. Faction alignment remains to be seen. And their current HQ location is in the village of Holden. So we want key NPCs. So we know that we have got... we've got 4 players. And then they want to be under a dozen strong. So I'm going to say like 6 NPCs feels good. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want like a leader. I don't know whether I want to go full Black Company straight away and give them an analyst. I do like the dynamic of having a company analyst to record their great deeds. I might kind of sub that in to be a secondary role of someone else. So we'll go / analyst. Is that analyst? Afraid. Keeper of the annals. I've keeper of stories, because I can't remember. Yeah, that looks right. Just chronicler. Just gotta be so careful with anything that Google could interpret as anal when you're streaming. Chronicler is safer. It's safe for work. Chronicler. So we've got a leader, someone whose secondary job is going to be keeper of the chronicles. Someone who'd be responsible for kind of engineering works, because we want someone to take the lead for building out their home base and like refurbishing that ruined manor. So if one of the NPCs has that skill set, then if the players decide, we don't want to engage with this element, we're not fussed about making a home base look fancy, the engineer can just do it all. I'm trying to think. We'll probably want some kind of spellcaster. I'm thinking like a level 4-ish. So let's go ahead and use this as a chance to jump in and like wizard. That's just gonna creatures. Wizard sponge, not quite what I had in mind. Let's see whether we can get to. No, we can't. I was hoping we could get to some other spellcasters from that. Monster family, creature, elemental vessel. I know you're not going full Black Company, but if I recall, they did have one or two specific magic users. They had Tom Tom, Goblin, One Eye, and then they pick up some more as they go on. Tom Tom and One Eye are brothers, and Tom Tom, Goblin, One Eye, and Silent are the 4 that they have in the first book. And One Eye's got the hat, the grotesque hat. Right, we want a creature, some kind of spellcasting creature, but for the life of me, I can't. Mage. It's going to be called a mage, isn't it? Maybe. Mage. Mage for hire. Mage for hire, that's kind of perfect, right. There you go, mercenaries. This is what I was trying to get to. So on Archives of Nethys for PF2, one of the things that's really nice is when you click on a creature that is a member of a family of creatures. So in this case, a mage for hire is a member of the mercenary monster family. It gives you the link to all of the other monsters within that group. So I can see if I wanted to build an encounter with a bunch of mercenaries, I can look at this and I can go, okay, what are my options? I've got bodyguards, bounty hunters, mage for hire, monster hunters. So it gives me direction to go and build an encounter with like-for-like creatures and kind of thematically appropriate creatures and creatures that work well together. But I think Mage for Hire is actually just perfect. Because I was thinking level 4, but level 3 works fine. So Mage for Hire, level 3. So some kind of spellcaster. So what do they get? Arcane spells. They get Flaming Sphere, Knock, See Invisibility, Grease, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, True Strike, Dancing Lights Days, Detect Magic, Electric Arc, Mage Hand, Message, Shield. Could make it elite to be at level 4. Absolutely. 120 feet on message. Cool. And then they get Diviner's Sight, Focus Spell. What are you? Focus 1. You glimpse into the target's future. Roll a 1d20. When the target attempts a non-secret saving throw or skill check, it can use the number you rolled instead of rolling, and the spell ends. Alternatively, you can instead reveal the result of the die for one of the target's secret checks during the duration, and the spell ends. Casting it again. That's really cool. So we can flavor this spellcaster as having kind of a divine flavor. Look to the Diviner's Sight. Ability for mechanics. But what I'm thinking is that, at the start of the day, as part of this group's kind of ritual, that mage will do their divining stuff as part of a good luck charm ritual type stuff. What sort of jobs do the free company take? Do they have or want to have a niche, or do whatever they're paid for? So I'm thinking that they are brand new, they're 10 members strong. They have no regalia to kind of identify themselves as a powerful company. At this point, they're going to be taking whatever jobs come up. So this first one, when we meet them, they'll just have spent what gold they have in kind of their communal kitty on buying the dilapidated ruins of Krallen Manor in the village or town of Holden, and they're there to get themselves established, sending out the squad of our 4 players off to find some kind of magic item to use as their regalia and kind of establish themselves as being a proper free company, because no proper free company exists without some sort of symbol to rally around. And then from there, it'll just be a case of going around town and trying to find what people need doing. So we have a leader, chronicler, an engineer, a spellcaster. We need someone to be the cook. That'll probably be a secondary occupation. And then maybe some sort of scout and recon. Perfect suggestion. So they're definitely going to need some kind of scout. Doctor of Sawbones. Sawbones is probably going to end up being a secondary thing, because I don't want the players to rely on them having a Sawbones. I don't want the players to go, oh, it's fine, we've taken all this damage, we don't need to play it safe or take a moment to regroup, because we know we've got medical resources back at base. So let's have a look and see whether we've got some roguish. What would the spy be? What level's the spy going to be? The spy's level 6, probably a little bit too high a level. But we could make the weak adjustment on them and bring them down a little bit. Spy deals precision damage. They're like a rogue. Gain bonuses to gather information or make an impression. Yeah, that seems fine. So let's go make a note. No one said anything about medical resources. They have a doctor and he's severely under-equipped. Yeah, that could work. Make a note that this scout is a weak spy. You just have a first aid kit and someone who could use it. Yeah, one of these 6 people will probably have medicine, although I think at least one of the players has dipped into medicine, so they could be the doctor of the group. So they don't have a scout. What have we got? We've got a fighter, a barbarian, an oracle, and a wizard. So let's go. That's probably a good place to start. We should probably have a look at the classes and see what gaps we're missing. Right, so straight away I'm thinking that cook can be a bard as well, maybe. I like that. Does medicine work better in Pathfinder than 5e? I believe that medicine in Pathfinder, you can actually heal people with it. So if we jump here and go and pull up the medicine skill. So with the medicine skill, you can administer first aid on an adjacent creature that's dying or is bleeding. You stabilize them. But then in downtime, you can spend at least 8 hours caring for a diseased creature, make a medicine check to attempt to treat the disease, or you can treat poison, or you can treat wounds. So you spend 10 minutes treating one injured creature. Target gains temporary immunity to the treat wounds action for an hour. Yada yada yada. Where's it go? Where's it tell us what it does? Where's it tell us what it does? Magically treating wounds if you're an expert in medicine. Yada yada yada. Hit points gained. Oh, there we go. It's in the table. So if you are trained in it, the DC is 15, and on a success they recover 2d8, or on a critical they get 4d8 of hit points. So yeah, you can use medicine to do battlefield healing between fights. They're basically all fresh graduates of medicine, engineering, etc. Zero experience in those fields. Could be the players are probably going to be the newest people in that. So the idea is you can use medicine immediately better than 5e. Yeah. So the idea that the players had when we were talking about this and when they were kind of outlining, I'd suggested that they could be part of a free company and they were interested in the idea, but they had some reservations. One of the things that they were interested in was being members of a smaller group and that they would not be in charge. So the kind of idea here is that these other 6 members are the founders and our 4 players are like literally the first recruits of this fledgling free company. So they've seen the sign that says members of a free company wanted, and they've picked it off, and this is their first mission, and they are brand new to it. That's just going to be saying they can use herbalism kits. Not looked at Pathfinder for 10 to 12 years, maybe till this week. This week is an ideal time to do it, Chaos. They currently have discounts like 25% off the core book and the beginner's box, but you can also get the Lost Omens World Guide for free from the Paizo site at the moment. If you go on to the Paizo site, there should be a link to like their announcement for it, and you can pick up the Lost Omens guide, the World Guide, for free. Right, so we've got a broad idea. Let's start looking at classes. Don't do that. Don't pull it out of there. We want it to be in there. There we go. Right, so I'm thinking Bard for the cook, because they get a lot of abilities that they can, the artisan in them is in the kitchen. The newest recruits in their first mission is to get the banner. Fresh recruits get sent to the kitchen for cooking and cleaning duty. Fresh recruits get sent into the place where they're most likely to die. Like, they don't. The founding members don't want to have to go and risk their lives and then have the company immediately crumble. If one of the players is an oracle, would there be an overlap with the diviner of the company? Probably, but that divine flavor is just like their focus spell. They're mainly an arcane caster. So depending on how deep into the divine this oracle goes, I'm not 100% sure of how deep they're going to go, we can dial back those divine kind of vibes from the hedge mage. Yeah. Let's have a look at the other classes. So champion's probably a great shout for the leader. That feels like the obvious choice is to have the leader be a champion. Yeah, some kind of champion. Champion. I love hedge mazes. Right, so the chronicler could be a bard, but I like the idea of the chronicler being something else. What that something else is, I don't know yet. Oh yeah, I missed the bloody ad notice again. I need to right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set myself a wee little timer. So at least I'll be several minutes out by it. So there's no point. I need to start setting myself timers. So I'm like, there's an ad coming. Because I forget to look down. Right, so what is our chronicler going to be? A rogue chronicler could be. They do get all the skills. Is the stream going to be about hex crawling or points of interest? At the moment, we are trying to do some world building for a faction, and we're figuring out who is what. Who else gets a whole bunch of skills? Who's really skilly other than the rogue? What's the investigator get? Investigator seems like a good one for a chronicler, to be honest. Skills is trained in society, trained in one or more skills determined by your methodology, trained in a number of skills equal to 4 plus your intelligence mod. And what is their methodologies? Alchemical sciences, empiricism, forensic medicine, interrogation. Yeah, I like that. And investigator chronicler. So we want that to be investigator. Engineer, obviously, some kind of inventor. Or the inventor class. That seems like an easy one. Bard, cook, scout is a weak spy, which is like a rogue. Spellcaster is a mage for hire, so that's like some kind of wizard. So that gives us, it's all fine. Let's have a look and see if I can remember the players' names. Players. I didn't make pages for them yet. Let's see if we can. Right, one of them is an oracle. So an oracle, a fighter, a barbarian, and I think a barbarian anyway, and a wizard. I know the wizard is a dwarf. The barbarian is a sprite. A fighter is a gnoll. And the oracle is an Akmiri, so that would be kind of similar to a Warforge or whatever the Pathfinder, an automaton. That would be the Akmiri, kind of a spirit inside a housing, like in robotish housing. Tiny person with big anger issues. Yeah, like that trope of tiny barbarian. It's always good. Cool. So we need to figure out what ancestries we want all of the other creatures to be. Character creation, ancestries. So we've already got a dwarf. I would like one of them to be an orc or a half orc. As a 5-foot person, I take umbrage at that. Goblin Poog. Yeah, Poog is an angry little guy. Right, so I feel like if we're going down Free Company was established by a kind of Novaris citizen, then we'd probably go like Dragonborn for the leader. But then having Novaris fighting Novaris at the location of the site doesn't make a huge amount of sense. So we'll table that for now. So let's just make... I like the idea of a half-orc being on the team. Let's have a look at what some of the other options are. Lizard folk could be cool. A rat folk. We're going to have a rat folk. And we love the Soki. Lizard folk, maybe, probably not. I'm not feeling lizard folk. I do like Tengu. Don't think we're going to go any of the particularly weird options. I'm kind of vibing with having the other wizard being a skeleton, like a skeleton in disguise. Could be kind of cool. I don't think we want any. Yeah, skeleton disguise for the spellcaster. I like that. In disguise. I've yet to encounter a system where I don't love their rat kinfolk. Yeah, rat folk are just cool. We've been playing Pathfinder 2nd edition for a few months, but 2 of our players just dropped out, so I'm a little worried it's going to fall apart. How many players have got left, Goblin Knave? The skeleton wearing a fake skin, he just tells people he's malnourished. Special love to werewolf for the apocalypse ones. You can absolutely run a game with 2 people. It might be a case of run for those 2 for a little while and try and bring in some more people over time. But I really enjoy running for 1 or 2 people because you get so much more direct time with them as the GM. You can really, especially if they like role playing, you can get so much more role play out of a 2-person party than a 4-person, and then, you know, exponentially more difficult the more people you involve. But having them dual class, having them run like kind of a secondary bumpkin class alongside them. What's the word? Sidekick. That is the word. Having them have sidekicks could work. And most encounters and things can be adjusted. They have the per character adjustment rules. So I would say you'd probably be alright with 2 characters as long as the players are okay with it, at least in the short term while you source other players. So I like the idea of the mage being a skeleton in disguise. I like the idea of the bard and the cook being a rat folk, having the rat folk be like in charge of the food. I feel like we'll get a lot of play out of that. And then for our half orc, let's go engineer for the half orc. Jason says, been lurking, but just want to jump in and say I've run for just 2 players for the past handful of months. It's been fine. I have an NPC tag along with them and sometimes not always adjust encounters accordingly and everything works fine. Yeah, like you could absolutely either have them run extra characters or you throw in a couple of extra characters, adjust the encounters. Definitely doable and gives you a lot more one-on-one time with each player, which is really nice. Morpheus says fantasy ratatouille. Yeah, exactly. So a half orc engineer, that gives us all of our spicy options, and then we'll go human for everyone else because we don't have any humans in the party, and that gives us some balance. I should say I'm one of the 2 players I'm not running. Right, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, if you and the other player are happy to continue playing as a twosome party, just mention it to your GM and because they're probably thinking, oh, we've lost 2 players, what's the state of the game going on? And if you both say, oh, you know, we're happy to keep going with 2 players, that'll probably, or could put their mind at ease as well. So we got 3 humans, a rat folk, a skeleton in disguise, so human in quotes. I'm thinking we'll do something. We'll look to see whether there's any magic items that could impact that, because I know like in Divinity 2 there are characters that have the skeleton characters have the ability to make themselves look like non-skeletons. So if there isn't an item that exists like that in PF2, we will find one, we will make one, we'll sort it out. So we've got 3 humans and then our party. So we've got a nice mix of ancestries. Hat of disguise. Yes, this is what we want. Hat of disguise. The head of disguise. It's not even that high a level either. Ordinary looking hat allows you to cloak yourself in illusions. Once per day, the hat casts a first level illusionary disguise spell on you. While setting up the disguise, you can magically alter the hat to appear as a comb, a ribbon, helm, or other piece of headwear. You create an illusion that causes your appearance as another creature of the same body. Cool, Hat of Disguise, perfect. And we'll really lean into the old One Eye vibes for this spellcaster. And have them have an absolutely disgusting hat. Skellen feels that they have a completely perfect disguise. In reality, it's just glues on a fucking wonky mustache. I love that. It's like, you're a skeleton. No, sir, as you can see by my mustache, I'm quite clearly a human. Oh, that's good. Have the players already have their PCs, or at the very least pick the race class or whatever it's called in PF2? Yes, they've already chosen all their ancestries, class, and background, and they've made all their characters. I would name them human, but in our last campaign, one of the players ran a temporary character who was a human who was called Fred something, and human kind of just became attached to that, and he was like, I am just a human called Fred. But we'll come up with some kind of name for him. Names is probably the next part, so we'll do what we're always doing. We'll go fantasynames.com, fantasynamegenerator.com, fantasy and folklore. Right, rat folk, rats. Give me the rats. That's not what I want. Where's the rat folk? Would they be a mouse? I mean, a mouse is not a rat. I would say a mouse person would have rounder names than a rat person. Rat people are going to have sharper names. But we don't see... Am I just being blind? Because all I can see is Rakasha. Let's just see whether I can see any rat people. Let's try rat folk names. Rat folk names, Pathfinder. Where was that living? Viz, Sraz, Chick, Jit, Srayman, Divden. Viz isn't terrible. Companies are all about nicknames. Yeah, I am feeling like the nicknames probably going to have to come into effect there too. But it's hard. I'm trying to resist the urge to dive full Black Company immediately. So at least I'd like to know what everyone's real name is before assigning them nicknames. Vetric. Was one of those just called Crohn's, like the disease? Because that doesn't feel okay. Too many consonants. Kig, Crom. Be Romley ass. Yeah. The main TTBR names are such found in the pop culture. I did not know that. Thank you, Grandmaster Owl. Rack the rat. Splat the rat. We're calling him Splat. Just so that I can full on Timothy Dalton every time we talk about him and be like, Splat the rat. Right, so Splat the rat. I feel like I'll regret that. How are we doing? We got 14 minutes till the next ad. We are good. So skeleton, I feel like we either roll with like just a super generic name or like a highborn name. Notice Kelly, he's definitely not. That's really good. Notice Kelly is really good. Not a skeleton. Oh my god. We're going Notice Kelly because I really want them to not notice it. And then when it gets to be revealed, for them to be like, how did we not notice it? Oh. Didn't find them shrouds then. Just the one shroud, actually. Similarly to what I have seen you do, I tend to pick particular regional naming conventions for cities and then have names for citizens. That is typically what I do, especially when I'm working high level. Like there's a lot of kind of French preclusion in the Vale, but given this is a free company, I'm not quite sure where all of these people are going to come from. I know that certainly the Akmiri and the Dwarf are definitely not from the Vale. The Sprite might be. We're not 100% sure where the Knoll is. I don't think we know anything about the Knoll yet, but beyond his name. His name is Charlie. He's Charlie the Knoll. It's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. Or it's the only one I can remember how to spell. So Notice Kelly. Oh, I love that. Notice Kelly. Splat the Rat. Incredible. So human leader probably going to have, boring human name. The chronicler, an investigator, half-orc engineer, and the human scout. So I think the scout is an ideal one to have a nickname. Let's just go Whisper for the scout. My main campaign right now is mostly Turkish and Arabic names, so more traditional European names really stand out. Yeah, a lot of my place names and stuff in the last campaign, as it was desert based and kind of based on North Africa, Mediterranean, Middle East, that kind of band, like really European names stood out like a sore thumb. I know my players are looking forward to being able to immediately spell all the name or a lot of the names that I give them in this campaign and not be like, I understand the words you're saying to me, but I do not know how to spell it. Like they're going to get, Splat, Whisper, Nota Skelly. I don't know. There is a YouTuber that does miniature painting. I can't remember. It's Marcos something, and I'm sure his channel is Not Just Mecha, but he has an accent and he pronounces it Not Just Mecha, and that's what I hear when I'm hearing Nota Skelly, like Nota Skelly. Like that might end up being his accent actually. So we've got some. Let's generate some orky names. Unless they have dedicated half-orc. They do have dedicated half-orc names. Ooh, those are far too orcish. Yeah, I don't like any of those. We'll figure out an orc name. Then we just got a bunch of humans. Humans are boring. Third. That's a pretty good name. Pretty good name for an engineer, actually, too. Like, yeah, I really like that. Third is straight and to the point. Works for an engineer. Running a DCC game that has a very French Revolution vibe, and then main antagonist is named Severin Leclerc. Severin Leclerc. Third is a great name. So we need something for our chronicler and then something for our leader. And I think that'll be a pretty good start, at least getting us in the ballpark. So what can we nickname someone that does a lot of writing? Could call him Quill, I suppose. Most of the writing in this is going to be done with quill and ink. It is that medieval allegory. Scratch is a good one. I like Scratch, I like Quill. Is there anything else that could put for it? I don't think they're going to have thesauruses, so we can't go down like more tongue-in-cheek. Black Tongue. That makes him sound significantly more badass than I had in mind. Like, from licking the tibs. Oh my god. Yes. That I like. Yeah, that's perfect. Like, because Black Tongue sounds really like sinister and menacing, and then you realise it's just because they spend the whole day licking quills. Named from licking tibs. A tib licker. I was thinking Black Hand from the Smudgies, but I'm a lefty. Black Tongue is significantly better. it sounds so sinister. And then we just need a regular human male. Just use German words as names if you want even more sinister. Yeah, it's always a good idea. If you want to sinister it up. So we don't know. Person from across the pond. What's a tib? It's the end bit of either a quill or a fountain pen, I think. Now I'm curious what that would sound like in German. Ruby eyes. Yes, severe allergies. That is funny. That's more funny than I want to go for this guy. I want this guy to be a little bit more serious. But that is funny. We also need to figure out what the tip of the fountain pen is. The nib. Let's go, and there's going to be like knight names here. That's the kind of vibe we want. H-I-J-K. J-K. Joran Hillhurst is pretty good. I like Joran as the first name. Not sold on Hillhurst, but Joran is a good, strong first name. Right, let's go. Male French. Joran. No, that's way more actually French than I was hoping. Dragon, Honorable, Earnest. It's going to be a noble name generator, isn't there? Give me noble names, because that'll give me family names. Where are you now? I know you have them. Noble name generator. Noble house names. Thomas von Otting. Northia. Rowley. Vassimo. I like Vassimo. I like Vassimo a lot. Joran Vassimo. Yeah, let's go that. Vassimo. Vassimo? Yeah. If that's not how you pronounce it, that's how it's getting pronounced. Joran Vassimo. Some kind of champion. Then we've got Blacktongue third. So they will just refer to him as captain. Because, you know. So they'd refer to him as either captain or the old man, because that is how everybody refers to the captains in the Black Company. And then we got Blacktongue third, Notice, Kelly, Splat, and Whisper. Captain Vass. I had a Captain Bass in the last campaign. It was a hobgoblin captain that was initially an enemy of the players, and they managed to convince him to switch sides and put him on payroll, and then they all died, so they never got to actually utilize him. Star Skydance says, how old is old? Doesn't matter the age, just anyone that's in the captain's position of a free company is the old man. It's just Bass with a wonky mustache. I feel the theme of this game is wonky mustaches. I mean, this is only taking place 4 years afterwards, so Captain Bass could be somewhere just with a fake mustache. That would be pretty funny. I should probably go through the list of characters that were in the last campaign, the list of NPCs, and figure out who could be in this one, because the time frame is really short. It's only 4 or 5 years, so they could be here. Trying to escape his reputation as a traitor to whoever he worked with before he switched sides. That could definitely be the people that he switched sides to are all dead. So that's very true. Let's see. Was it Bass? Captain Bass. Worked for the Claws, so he worked for a gang. You can see he was a hobgoblin. And then he defected and went to work for the good guys. So he doesn't have a mustache, so we could just put a mustache on him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows they're dead. His bosses ended up getting turned inside out and turned into gross demon creatures that then became lieutenants for the big bad evil guy. So I feel like everybody knows them. Fake mutton chops. One problem I have with world building NPCs is coming up with stats for them real quick, just in case the players feel like utilizing them either in combat or other means. What would you do for this? So I think of what their archetype is. So we've already been doing this, like Whisper, who's a scout. I went and looked for the spy creature or monster or NPC stat block. It's level 6. It's a little bit more powerful than what I want, but Pathfinder 2nd edition has specific rules for how to make them weak or more powerful. So we hit the weak version, and this should change it to be drumroll. Yeah, so it drops its, I don't know what it does to the level, but it makes it weaker, so it changes its stats. Same with looking at so the human, we went for a mage for hire, which is an NPC, and that gives us some ways to go. If you're playing 5e, things like the commoner stat block, the noble, the spy, the guard captain, bandit captain, those kind of things, depending on what the role of the creature that you're interested in using is. So for low level combat focused stuff, thugs, knights, soldiers, guard captains, bandit captains, those are all excellent choices for martially focused drop of a hat stat blocks that you want to pull. If you want someone that's more like noble, there is the noble stat block. There is also I'm sure there is another one. Might be a king or a monarch or like something even more up there for something higher level. There's the spy for something a bit more sneaky. So I'd use all of those kind of stat blocks, and just keep it really archetypal, because if you're not expecting the players to fight them, and your only concern is, well, what happens if they suddenly get into a fight? Well, then you only need something for that suddenly. You don't need to put a lot of work making a custom stat block for it. You just use the ones that are there. Welcome back, Space Chimp. We're still deep in spoiler territory. Every one of them is going to be spoiler territory from now on, because they're all going to be session planning. So you're always going to be deep in the well of spoilers, unfortunately for you. So let's have a look. I think that's good enough for those folks. I will eat shoots and leaves. Yeah, sorry, buddy. So now that he's gone, we can carry on talking about him. No, I think I'm pretty happy with that broad overview of what they're going to be doing. I'll figure out all the mechanically stuff for their encounters on the day, probably, because that's just a case of sitting there and looking through stat blocks and building the encounters. But I'm pretty pleased with the general vibe, some of the background stuff. So what I'll probably do is spend like half an hour generally chatting. So if you have questions about the world, about any of the world building that we've done, questions about Pathfinder, all that kind of stuff, throw them in the chat, and we'll talk some Pathfinder stuff. I'm coming from Pathfinder 2e. I'll try doing what the game mastery guide is packed with NPC stuff at the back. I do believe. I'm pretty sure it is. Let me double check. Let me check the reference for the spy. Game mastery guide, yeah. So page 207 has got the spy, and all around there will have a bunch of NPCs that you can pull from. Really useful for just quick applications for fighting them. The only potential problem I can see is when the players are extremely high levels than the NPC. If you use Archives of Nethys, one of the nice things about it is a lot of them, it groups them together. So all monsters in courtiers. So let's say they were lower level and you chose a noble. Well, if the players were a little bit higher level, you could instead use an advisor or a spy. You have the option to make them elite, which will bump their level a little bit as well. Or the other option is to go to, well, it'll be in the GM screen, I believe. Game mastering treasure. Where is this? I'm not 100% sure of where this is on Nethys, but I do know that there is a table that you can use to quick build a monster. I have it on my Legend Keeper GM screen, so we'll use that instead of Nethys. Monster Maker. So somewhere in the Game Mastery Guide, there is a table that will give you the skills, AC, saves and perception, HP, attack, bonus, and damage for a standard monster for each level. So if your player's like 7th level and you want to throw a 7th level creature at them, do that. Roy McCoy. We like Roy McCoy. Tell me a bit about Roy McCoy. Who is Roy McCoy? What's their story? What vibes is Roy McCoy giving off? Let's just wait for this ad to burn itself out, and then we'll go back to answering questions. Make sure that what isn't there to tell about Roy McCoy? Ad is over. Cool. So in the Game Mastery Guide, there is a table that will give you all the kind of standard default numbers for creatures by their level. So if your players were level 7 and you wanted a level 7 monster real quick, you could pull this out and you can see AC 25, skill checks are going to be plus 17. It gives you what their saves would be based on being high, medium, or low, what their standard HP is, a plus 18 to attack and 2d10 plus 9 damage, and then save and attack DCs. That can be enough if you're just running a really off the cuff, unprepared for adventure and they just randomly attack. Not 100% sure on what the page is, because I will have pulled this from Nethys and now I can't find Nethys. But let's have a look. DC by level, specific traits, monsters, creatures, determining creatures, identifying creatures. It will be it's in the Game Mastery Guide because most of these use the numbers. Let's go PF2 Monster Maker table. Building creatures. There we go. It's in chapter 2 of the GMG, I think. And then ability modifier, scales, perception. No, this building them from scratch. This isn't the table I was talking about. Unless it is. Page 50, I think it said. Yeah, I appreciate the follow, and it's not bugging me for the questions. Absolutely happy to answer them. I really need to start referencing the page numbers I pull these from when I copy them over from Nethys. But this table exists. It is somewhere. And that's a really good way to just pull something out real quick. Right, scrolling up. From a long line of McCoys, Roy's father bought his oil empire from a gentleman in a bar called Roy. Excellent. We do have oil-related stuff going on the map, so I'll drop Roy McCoy on, and then I'll circle back to your question, Navtal. That's coal. We don't want coal. Roy McCoy don't mess with coal. He's an oil man. Through and through. His father was an oil man. His father... Oh no, you've done the redeem. Roy McCoy is going to live. Or he is if I can click on the damn oil marker. We'll drop a secret. And then drop the whole Roy McCoy in there. Twitch was suddenly all, name an NPC! Right, Navtal says, I have a channel question. Now that you've announced you won't be covering D&D in the near future, will you instead just be making Pathfinder content, try and cover different systems, or will things be more system agnostic? So broadly, what's going to happen is I'm going to carry on making a lot of the same kind of content that I've been doing for as long as I've been doing stuff. So world building stuff, like GM advice, covering new stuff and things. Programs, that's the word. Programs. Speaking of programs, somewhere in the Twitch land, I meant to set a new like wide channel goal. So I'm going to do that right now while it's on my mind and I don't forget. Then you can all start spending the channel points to get us there, because there is a program that I've wanted to do to have a look at for a while. And for the life of me, I cannot remember how to get to this page on Twitch. Create a dashboard. That's what I want, right? And then we want manage rewards requests. Is that going to be a thing? And then edit rewards? Maybe. Manage rewards and challenges. Community challenge. There we go. Okay, so how do we turn this on? I don't know whether we can. Extend. Goal not met. Extend. For 30 days. That should be it. Extend duration. Something went wrong. Please try again. Thanks, Twitch. Cool. Well, we'll sort that out between streams. From next week, there's a map making tool called Dungeon Alchemist. It's like a 3D kind of isometric looking thing that looks really cool. And I'd like to check it out. So I thought I'd stick a goal for that on, but Twitch doesn't want to turn it on. So I think immerse tables for the creature creation could be. I did set it up a while ago. Ah, right, okay. Let me go. So the reason it's not worked is because I had it turned on over Christmas. So new community challenge. Dungeon Alchemist. What was the goal amount? 10,000 gold coins. 30 days. And then create. Challenge already exists. Dungeon, let's just change the name of it then. Like review. Let's try that. Create. And then delete that one. Delete and refund. That's not the button I wanted to press. We've ruined it all. I pressed all the wrong buttons. It's fine. We were only 33% of the way there for the other one. Oh, God. This is what happens when you're away from Twitch for too long. You forget how absolutely everything works. But there we go. The challenge exists now. So over the next month, we will hopefully hit that, and then I'll go and I'll buy Dungeon Alchemist, and we'll have a time where we do that. But circling long way back round to your question about what the hell's going on the channel for channel content, the plan is to carry on making the kind of stuff that I have been doing. So world building stuff, reviewing different tools and stuff like that. I'll pretty much be doing exactly the same thing, except anytime I'd make a video where I would talk specifically about something to do with 5th edition, it'll be Pathfinder or another game system. Pathfinder is what I'll be doing in the short term, because Pathfinder is absolutely blowing up right now. All of my graphs for Pathfinder videos are like shooting straight up at the minute, so I really want to strike while the iron's hot. Gonna make a getting started with Pathfinder video this week, I think, if I can get the time to do it. And I'll still make videos on, how to be a dungeon master, and like general game mastering tips. I'm just not going to cover new 5th edition releases, and I'm not going to talk specifically about 5th edition anymore. Right. Let's catch up with the chat. NPC redeem Theo and Albrecht Kramer. Twins and merchants that are constantly arguing about their investments and being pedantic over others' accounting and tidiness in general. They're grumpy and seem rude, but once they start liking you, they'll be loyal friends to you until the end of times. Their wares are fairly priced and of high quality. Awesome. I don't think that we've got general store stuff for Holden yet. So if we haven't, we can absolutely throw Theo and Albrecht in as a general store. So let's go with this corner here. Create from, nope. We want link to existing. Yeah, we'll link to existing because this is going to be a general store. And then we want to add a new location. So this is going to be in Holden. And then add that. for our merchants. Merge tables for the creature creation. I must have merged the tables. Dungeon Alchemist is really good for battle maps. Yeah, I've seen it a lot, and I'm really excited to check it out. I like the kind of auto generation of rooms, being able to generate the size and space of something, and then be like, I want this room to be this type of room, and it doing stuff. That's cool. Honestly, I'm quite envious of Legend Keeper. It looks great to use, but I promised myself I wouldn't do subscription-based things. That's fair enough. Subscription-y stuff isn't for everyone. I used to be firmly in camp, no subscriptions, give me everything like one-time payment and just have it forever, like with Dungeon Draft and Wonder Draft. But I found, especially with kind of these smaller TTRPG products, a lot of the single payment stuff kind of fizzles out. Like when you look at the development of Wonder Draft and Incarnate, or Dungeon Draft and Incarnate, either or works. When Wonder Draft first came on the scene and I made a video about it, I said it's better than Incarnate, because at the time it was better than Incarnate. And over the course of like 6, 8, 12 months, Wonder Draft got really good, but then it just completely stagnated, and I don't think anything substantial has happened with it since then. But through that entire time, Incarnate has just been slowly getting better and better and better and better. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, Incarnate has now surpassed Wonder Draft for my use, and for what I want to use it for, and for the things that I was looking for. And the only reason they're able to do that is because they've got that money coming in every month. Like, that is the benefit of the subscription models, is you've got a constant stream of income, but you've got to fight to keep those people subscribed. So you have to give them stuff worth subscribing for, which is like, I get why people don't like subscription stuff, but I also get, when people do want them. Rendrick Hilson, Grand Marshal of X. We should, I don't know whether there'll be Alderface Templars rocking around in this region, but if there are, you could definitely be the Grand Marshal of this region. So we'll drop it. Grand Marshal of the Talavari chapter of the Templars. Right. We're already 2/3 of the way towards Dungeon Alchemist. Are we really that far already? Holy mother of pill. Obsidian Foundry, Dungeon Draft are my go-to. Patreon for software, basically, for me. Meaning I subscribe to Patreon monthly. Why not my software too? Wouldn't do it for everything, but I found it useful. That is a good way of looking at it. I subscribed to the Legend Keeper Patreon for a long time before they went public. And then as soon as they went public, I took out a new subscription with that. And both to get grandfathered in, because being grandfathered into price structures is always really nice. And because I'd been using the product for ages. And, I have done sponsor content with Legend Keeper, but I'd been using it for a long time before I ever did. And I do genuinely use it all the damn time, as we've seen in streams. I'm going to go ahead and update our follower goal as well. So if you're currently sitting in the chat and watching the stream and you're not following, go ahead and click the button, because it'll make the number go up, and that tells me as an internet creator how much I am worth. We are 80% to Dungeon Alchemist already. That is sweet. So yeah, now I'm caught up with chat. Go ahead, throw any questions you have about like the world that I've been creating, any questions about Talavar or the campaign, any questions about Pathfinder 2nd edition, go ahead and throw them in the chat as I listen to my very, very empty water bottle. We can't get anything out of the straw. It's going to have to be an open it up situation. And try not to spill it down ourselves. So let's have a look. If we go back to our desktop view and zoom in to the veil here. Need to have a refill option along with all the others, yeah. and see what other magic stuff the players could encounter in the Vale. So we've got a Gloom Blade, which is a level 9 piece of equipment. We've got the Eclipse Dagger, and we've got a fragment of the Crown of the Maiden Queen, which is a pale lavender ellipsoid Aeon Stone. This is basically like a Dispel Magic Stone. And it's a lost gem from the Maiden Queen's crown. How have you been feeling, Anto? I've been following this whole debacle for weeks, and you've seen the toll it's taken on Sam. You're doing okay? No. No, I am not. It has been grotesque. So I first heard about it in December, right when the real early leaks were coming up. I started hearing rumblings. I'm in a group with like 60 or 70 other YouTubers, so we've been hearing rumblings of it like from insiders for a little while. Couldn't talk about it because we didn't have any concrete information. They didn't have any concrete information. But yeah, when the news broke properly, like I was sitting there looking at my work in progress book built off the back of OGL, being like, oh damn, I really need to get this out before they do this so they can't take it off me. I think that Mark Humes put out a video today where he talked about losing sleep over it and the stress, and 100% the same. Like, as someone whose business is built probably more than half off the back of the OGL, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of like stress, a lot of spontaneously booking a weekend or like 3 days in Rome at the end of the month to be like, I just need to not be here. But certainly since like the end of this week, especially like with Paizo's announcement of the Orc license and the way all of the kind of big third-party publishers have kind of banded together, I'm feeling a lot more confident in kind of the future than I was. But holy moly, stressful couple of weeks. It's been a long year already. This is kind of a controversial take, but I kind of wish instead of subscriptions they would offer purchasing expansions similar to DLC. Say you purchase the base package for Legend Keeper, they keep working on add new features, that's really cool, then your subscription would definitely be worth it. If it were kind of a niche side subscription, it might not feel great, but for those who really wanted it, they could have instead of a SIM purchase for a base crowbar, an expansion. I've seen software that does kind of do that. The Affinity Suite, which is an alternative to kind of Adobe's Photoshop and all of those programs. It's what I use. I had planned on making a video tutorial. That was supposed to be the first video I made this year, and then, everything. They just released version 2 of that, and it's essentially this exact same thing, but with a few upgrades, and they're charging again for it. So there was precedent for like version-based stuff. I don't mind too much the subscription stuff. Troll the DM says, hey Anto, I've really appreciate your Pathfinder 2nd Edition videos. Since the madness began, I've been checking out a ton of systems to move my games over to, and they certainly helped me settle on Pathfinder. Right there with you as far as no more 5e stuff. No problem with people running it or anything, but I don't want to be a river to WotC. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sure that all of the creative people involved in 5e just want what's best for the game and just want to make cool stuff, because why wouldn't they? This is not a job that, like, the creative side of this job is not something that you get into because you want money, but it's the executive side, the suits, whichever, because there'll be a suit somewhere, some person in an executive room that ultimately made this decision. And that unnamed, unknown person that I call George, I don't know what their actual name is, but I call them George. I hope George is sweating bullets, and I hope George is losing sleep after the pushback. I watched the video you mentioned, but if nothing else, it's been extremely heartening to see everyone band together. Even myself, I found myself trying to do more to support creators. Yeah, the whole rallying around the community has been really nice. Just hope the OGL isn't indicative of things to follow. I don't want to be cynical, but I absolutely think it is. I think that they've been fairly transparent in where their kind of direction lies, like moving more digital, D&D being undemonetized, like wanting to expand it into like a media franchise rather than being just a pure TTRPG. I think that my guess would be over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of people leave WotC. A lot of talented creators who have been there for a long time either be pushed out or leave because the focus of the company that they've been making for has changed, and this company that they've been, they've assumed, I'm writing for D&D. D&D makes TTRPG stuff. D&D is not about TTRPGs anymore. It's about movies and TV shows and games, and TTRPGs will just be the little bedrock that all of those things were able to grow out of. The town builder that I was using not too long ago, the one that I used to make the map, that is Watabu. I'll grab the link and post it in the chat. So where is the chat? There is the chat. Looking right at it. So that is Watabu. They have generators for towns, villages, whole regions, mansions, one-page dungeon-y type stuff. It's a really cool site. Lowen Penhaligon. Elderly captain of the guard believes current leadership has been too soft on criminals. Too many half measures has given a rise in crime. We will copy them, and I'm trying to press buttons on a screen instead of a thing, and we'll put them in one of the cities nearby to our town, because we've already got some law enforcement in the town. Holy moly, I'm glad that we started early tonight, because my brain is turning into soup. Soup is the downfall of creativity. Just look at schools. It does feel like a suit predicated decision, which I'm not a fan of. I just have no good things to say, and I held off from making a video about it the whole time because I was seething. I was so angry. I was fully ready that if they didn't back down, to destroy all my 5 ebooks. Like, I wanted to build a pyre and set them all alight, and then people were like, book burning's probably not the right message. I was like, I don't have the money to hire a wood chipper, so I guess I'll shelve this idea. But I was so angry, which is why I held off from making a video, because I was like, I will not be able to articulately explain my feelings on the situation in video form without going into a full-on rage. Hence why I waited until Paizo's announcement, because I was like, this is the first time in this whole thing where I didn't feel angry and I felt hopeful and kind of excited, which is why I held off and instead just posted stuff to the community tab and on Twitter and in Discord and things to still kind of spread the word. But I think if in those first couple of days, oh man, yeah, I would have been a rage monster in a video. Should do a translated video of you angry and motioning and someone else translating it politely. That's an excellent idea. I had to censor myself in the Pathfinder video, in the Paizo video, I think. I remember putting in quacks, so I've definitely censored myself in a video soon, in the near past. I did read out the announcement, the Wizards of the Coast statement that they put out a couple of days ago, that ridiculous thing. I did a couple different reads of that to give to another YouTube channel for them to put into like a compilation. I have no idea which version they're going to do. I did like a straight read where I increasingly got more annoyed as time went on. So like became like Professor Umbridge and like parodying the situation. And then I did a read where I was doing my best Benoit Blanc impression for the whole thing. That's the one I hope they go with, because I was fully in it. But no, it's how do you create naming patterns for locations or for the names of people from created cultures? I do it a couple different ways. One of the main ways that I like to start doing it is I will pick a region of the world as a basis. So for example, I can't remember whether it's orcs or gnolls. I use Mongolian as kind of the basis for it. So I will look at Mongolian place names, I'll look at Mongolian words or names to take inspiration from, to mutate and apply to names for whichever it is, orcs or gnolls, I can't remember. I think it's orcs, and I think gnolls are Moroccan, but I'm not 100% sure without looking. So I'll choose a place and I will use that as a basis. One thing I did for the dual cities is in the south area of the region, there is a place called Ungawe, the unclaimed lands, this great forest and swampland. And I knew I wanted a lot of Central African influence from that, but I didn't want to take from any one culture individually. So what I did was I pulled up the list of phonemes, the sounds in several of the Central African languages, fed them into a generator that makes custom languages based on the sounds that you give it, and then outputted a ton of words from that. I can show you actually. Let's jump back in to here. Nope, not copper. And show you what I did. If Legend Keeper wants to not have a freak out because it's being streamed. Cool. So unclaimed lands. So scroll down into my secrets. So you can see here the location conventions of this region are based on Swahili and Zulu. So I took all of the consonant and vowel sounds from those two languages, fed them into a conlang generator, and then started taking words that spat out, because what that does is it gives me words that feel like they've come from that part of the world without just directly taken from those cultures. So I don't end up accidentally or intentionally just wholesale lifting a culture and its language and doing any kind of disservice to it, but I can still get the vibe that I want from it. So if I know that I want like that Central African vibe to the language, I can do that without having to be like stepping on any languages or being like any kind of like problematic elements to it, or it shields you from accidentally being problematic, not completely, but goes a long way, I think. Gives me 2001 Bionicle flashbacks. Oh man, that movie was so good. In my head, I've not watched it since I was a kid. I've not watched it since 2001, but I remember enjoying it a lot. Oh yeah, when Lego picked names from the Maori language and got sued. Oh, not the movie, just the franchise. I had the movie on DVD, I think. Like, I distinctly remember the DVD case for it. One thing, I went to see the new Avatar film yesterday. It was a perfectly fine film. Gorgeous looking. Enjoyed it well enough, but I'd never watch it again. It had very little impact on me. But it had a lot of, like, Pacific Island influence to it that I really enjoyed. Let me go ahead and snooze that ad because it was about to give us ads and we are coming up on 2 hours. So I'm going to call the stream there, I think. So we're like 5 minutes until the ad will kick in. So if you've got any questions or anything to put in the chat, now is the time to do it while I'm giving my kind of wind down spiel and letting everybody know where they can find me. Excuse me. So thank you for watching, everybody. My name is Benanto. This is Icarus Games. We try and do this every week. We've had like 2.5 months off because the world has been on fire. But I would like to get back into doing this every week and prepping for my upcoming Pathfinder 2E games. You can also find me over on YouTube. I make a whole bunch of content for players and game masters. I've got a playlist of Pathfinder 2nd edition videos. It's really handy, especially if you're coming from 5e. I've got a lot of comparison videos showing you what the differences between 5e and PF2 are. I have a Discord where you can hang out and chat with hundreds of other TTRPG enthusiasts, and there's a whole bunch of separate sections for chatting about all those different things. I have a Patreon where I produce a monthly magazine. This month's issue is going to be late because the OGL nonsense meant that I had to scrap absolutely everything that I had planned so as to not use OGL stuff just in case and source a whole new slate of content. So January's issue is going to be a little bit late, but we put out up until this point, it's been 5e and system agnostic fantasy stuff every single month. New monsters, new locations, new advice articles and magic items and all that good stuff. And that's at the link. And then you can find all of my other content, like purchasable content, over on my Drive-Thru RPG store, which is linked there as well. I also think we just hit the Dungeon Alchemist, right? No, raised, but like 80%. Cool. Yeah, Twitch is just showing me two different bits of information. It was like, it's raised, but it's like, no, it's 80% raised. Chaosborn Gamer says, aside from Pathfinder and D&D, what other systems have you played, ran, or built for? I have played Stars Without Number. I wasn't a massive fan of it. I felt like a regular human person where I want to feel like an absolute badass. I have played Cyberpunk Red, which is one of the best expressions of showcasing the lore of a setting and the feel of a setting within its rules. It has a lot of rules that I do like. I don't like everything about the rules, but it was a lot of fun. I have Starfinder, and I really want to play Starfinder, but I've still not found the time to play Starfinder. What else have I played? I picked up Skateboard Wizards, or Skateboard Wizards, on Bob Worldbuilder's recommendation this last week, and it's got such cool vibes. I want to be a skateboarding wizard so bad. And then I played several of the older editions of D&D as well. Thanks for your work and answering those questions. Much appreciated. You're very welcome. Thanks for the stream. You're very welcome. Appreciate the stream. I'll be on the lookout for more. I hope you join us. Fixed it and it's now complete. Round of applause for Grandmaster Owl. So we've hit that. So I guess I'll go buy Dungeon Alchemist and we'll do that next week. So next stream I'll pick up a copy of Dungeon Alchemist and we'll have a play on stream, see what it's like. Fit Ricky Pagan into a game. List of lots of things I'd not heard of, but I'm an old hat. I've not played a huge number of systems. I dabbled a little bit in a couple of systems as kind of as I was getting started into the space, and then once it's clear that we couldn't stick to like a long-term game, I was like, right, I'm just going to run something because I want to be in a long-term game, but we couldn't get together and hash it out. So I was like, right, I will be the GM. And we started with Pathfinder, the first edition for that one. And then it's just been years and years of solid long-term games. I would like to play more though. It's one of the benefits of being in a group with so many YouTubers. Like, semi regularly get offers to come and play in games, which is nice. Right, I think that I have shielded everything. I think that I've answered all the questions. Thank you very much for hanging out, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. Be back around this time next week. I quite like this early slot because I feel like I've got some time to go and decompress before having to go to bed. So we might start at like 9 next week as well. I'll pick up Dungeon Alchemist and we'll spend some time having a look at that and seeing what all the hype is about. But until then, happy gaming.